What's going on, everybody? This is Jerome Moore, host and creator of Deep Dish Conversations. And firstly, I want to say thank you for all love and support, and thank you for exploring the perspectives of social change with me on this platform. I want to encourage you all to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube and on your favorite podcast listen platform. And make sure you give us a 5-star rating if you're loving the Deep Dish Conversations. I appreciate all of the support again. I hope you all enjoy this episode. This is Deep Dish Conversations, a series in which I, Jerome Moore, sits down with prominent figures in Nashville, Tennessee to talk about social issues over amazing deep dish pizza. Deep Dish Conversations models how to have conversations about deep issues around racism, housing, policing, poverty, and more. Plus, you will get an idea for where to get your next slice of pizza from. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy Deep Dish Conversations. What's going on, everybody? This is your host and creator of Deep Dish Conversations, Jerome Moore, and we're back with another amazing episode of Deep Dish Conversations. And if you ain't noticed, all of these episodes are amazing, so I just put that in there because, it sounds good. But we have with us today for this episode, Jorge Salles Diaz, community organizer with Workers Dignity, an amazing organization here in Nashville, which we're going to learn a lot more about in a few seconds. But me and Jorge originally met at a sunrise movement. Do you remember that?
That's right.
Yeah. And so I don't know if you remember that. Yeah.
Who knew everything that would happen after that?
And I think I had just returned back from China.
That's right.
In October, and I was just kind of getting back integrated in the city and organizing and kind of see what's going on, and end up running into Jorge and some of your other peers there, and just had a good conversation. And when you just meet somebody that just got good energy and just got good vibes, you just mean well, man. And I just knew right then that you were just a good person. Didn't know if you was a criminal or anything, but I knew you was a good person. I knew you was a good criminal if you was, but no, man, Jorge is a really good guy. And I'm excited for people to learn more about you, man, and the work that you do. And more in particularly with the immigrant and the refugee, the Latinx community here in Nashville, which is thriving, is growing. But man, like other minority populations can be overlooked sometimes, right? And so, man, I'm excited. How you feeling, man?
I'm good, Jerome. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it. Nashville is a small town, so right. I hear about you from here, I hear about you from there, but
hopefully they good things,
we hadn't sat down to talk in a while.
I'm
glad.
Yeah, man, and I think I was trying to get you on last season.
Yeah,
and then it didn't work out.
Oof.
But
last
we back
last
with season
summer,
2.
Man. Last summer.
But we back with season 2, man. Bigger and better, man. And I hope you enjoy this. You got the OMG pizza. And so, so we advocate pizza for breakfast here. So Jorge, man, can you tell us a little bit about your role at Workers Dignity, and kind of what you do, and kind of the impact that they have here in Nashville?
Yeah, for sure. So Workers Dignity has been doing grassroots organizing for 11 or so years.
Okay.
But we're at a point where our work is the most exciting that I felt in my organizing life for a while. I'm really, really excited. We're trying to create a multiracial base. We're doing a power analysis that I think is very, very important. And just being in that room with those conversations has been incredible. So we're working to unite the people who are traditionally left out of political spaces,
right.
of labor movement spaces. So we always talk about who are your people,
right?
And so in our organizing home at Workers Dignity, we have the construction campaign, because our people are construction workers. We have our the Black Nashville Assembly. We have and we have several programs as well. We have a radio. We have and the program that I've been focusing on recently is we call it Workers Nights.
Okay.
So workers that have had their wages stolen, that have had an accident in the workplace.
Right.
You know how the laws here in Tennessee are designed. But I mean, Governor Lee is a construction developer, right? So he's the one figuring out workers' comp and all those laws. and so the laws are not on the side of the worker, and these are workers that traditionally have been left out of the labor movement. So what we're trying to do is, and what we're doing effectively and have been doing it for a while, is building power in those areas.
Right.
And that's our bread and butter, and that's what I'm focusing on right now. Wage theft and people that have been injured at the workplace, and we're not lawyers. We don't go through the court. We believe that the power is in the workers.
Right.
And that's how we do things.
Man, that's amazing, man. And workers dignity get busy. Like, like they will show up at your house. They will show up at your job place. They get busy. And so for people who may not understand, man, like, so what is like a typical like protocol or process if one of you a construction worker comes to you out and say, hey, you know, I'm not getting paid my fair wage, or, you know, I'm not getting the workers' compensation because I was injured on the site. Like, what is that process like?
So,
or if y'all hear about like an employer just not being fair to the workers.
And you know, we got people that, so our workers' nights are on Thursdays, and people just come, and if a worker comes and says, hey, I was not paid, my wages are owed, first we do an intake where you like figure out what's going on, you know, because like you gotta get the facts straight, and the construction industry is very complicated. I don't understand it. But so you have a worker working for a subcontractor who's working for a contractor who's working for a general contractor.
Right.
So first is figuring out what's really going on.
Right.
And trying to understand who has the power to pay that worker.
Right.
And it's not always the subcontractor here.
Right.
So our power analysis is, yo, this contractor that paid a contractor, that paid a subcontractor, that paid a subcontractor.
Right.
That dude is responsible for everyone working on that site.
Right.
Because the reason why that structure exists is so you don't have to make yourself responsible, right? There's a million little companies that come in and work, and then they skip town and don't pay the workers.
Right.
And that's why construction is so cheap here in Nashville. Yeah, man, the amount of codes of regulations that they skip in the process is terrible. So this dude all the way to the top is benefiting from the work of the little guy.
Right.
And then it's gaslighting them.
Right.
It's like, oh, it's not my responsibility that they didn't pay you.
Right.
No, it is, because it's a structure that you created that facilitates wage theft.
Come on. We got the most important part, the pizza.
Yeah. So I was saying, you have the general contractors telling the workers that it's not their responsibility that they get their wages stolen, but then they benefit from that from the cheap prices that are only possible because of wage theft. So what we do is we do public pressure campaigns. And definitely our largest one is Armando's campaign, Armando Asate. You should have Armando here. He's hardcore.
Armando, come on, man.
Armando's hardcore.
Come on, Armando.
But you know, Armando was doing construction at him and his crew were doing construction at the Vanderbilt Divinity School back in 2019, and they owed him something ridiculous, like $70,000, something like that.
Vanderbilt did. Or the contractors were Vanderbilt.
The subcontractor.
Okay.
Yeah, and what ended up happening in that case is like, who has the power to pay Armando, right? That's usually not the dude that hired him.
Right.
I mean, in that case, we went to the top, the general contractor, who's still pulling funny shit everywhere.
Right.
and to Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt, a lot of students put pressure, a lot of administration put pressure on Vanderbilt to pressure this company to get Armando his money. And it worked there. Then they had the same issue, and they had Armando and his crew had a pending payment for some cement work at McMurray Middle School, which is a Metro Nashville Public Schools. And that's still going on. That was also like very large amount of money. And Armando paid his crew, and like for that he had to like pawn everything, even his car.
And MNPS still hasn't compensated him.
No, it's still a battle. It's still a battle.
Speaking of battle, where's the house? Where is Dr. Battle?
Dr. Battle. Oh yeah, no pun intended.
No pun intended. What is Dr. Battle's position on this, or has she made any kind of official statement about this?
There's several people at MNPS that want to help Armando. Dr. Battle, the board. There are some people on the board that want to help him. There are others that don't. But we haven't seen progress. So
how long has this been going on?
2019.
This has been happening since 2019.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if y'all really do mean that you want to help Armando, get him paid.
Yeah.
It's like it's a middle school that is majority immigrant, Black, Indigenous, and Latinx, and those kids are just walking on top of like stolen cement. And what's that teaching them? That could be like their parents work construction. Like a lot of them. Like a lot of them experience, a lot of their parents experience wage theft, and it's just a rough reality for the kids. But that's been really like shows like how these like public pressure campaigns can really build power. Even if like we're still fighting that case. It's generated a lot of power in our base. And that's another thing. Like all of these campaigns are worker led. So the board of education, the National Board of Education, was like, oh, Armando, like they're manipulating you. They don't really know that it's Armando running this shit. Like Armando says where we go. Armando calls the shots. Armando picks the targets. Like we do talk about it because we move as a group. Like we move as a community.
As organizers do. Yeah.
But it's Armando calling the shots.
As it should.
And I think that's what's like most inspiring to me about workers' dignity. Like we really center the worker. We don't take that agency away. We don't say we're here to save you. We're here to call the shots. It's like we're here to give space for you to do all of that. And that works because there's more workers that are there to support. If it's just like me and another organizer at an action, nothing happens. It's really the workers.
The people that are being affected the most.
That's
as it should be in organizing and building power within those communities. And so, if you're not available, or if you're sick, or if you're out of town, or what have you, things can still move on because, as an organizer, your job is to promote leaders, develop leaders, encourage leadership within the people in the community, man. And like I said, workers' dignity, they get busy. There's no playing around, and they will show up at your front door, literally. If harm is being put on the people that you all are trying to advocate for, man. It's so much. This is really deep. I like, 'cause I'm learning a lot while I'm exploring kind of what workers dignity do too, but especially from just like wage stuff and things like that, because I don't think many people understand how frequent this is, you know, especially if you're not in it, right? And most people say, man, how can people steal money from you, like from your job? But it's happening every day. And so, man, for those that are watching right now, what are some ways, I guess, that they can support or Armando or another person that is being affected by wage theft or something in construction or something, just, you know, labor laws in general?
I think the first step is send us a Facebook message.
Okay.
Workers Dignity. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram.
All right.
Hit up those DMs. No, but for real though, like, you know, that's how I started.
Right.
You know, I was like, this is really cool.
Right.
Let me see how I can, you know, be a part of it.
Right.
And that's another really cool thing about Workers Dignity. Our class analysis is, you know, this movement is for everyone.
Right.
Like outside of the capitalist class, if you work for a living,
right,
then you're working class.
Right.
Now we do center people who are excluded from that.
Right.
You know, like indigenous people, black people,
right,
Latinx people, and those that are most affected,
right,
by capitalism.
Right.
But you're working class, you have a home. You
Right.
have a home at Workers Dignity, or you can have one.
You can't have one. Man, I think you brought up a good point, which I'm curious in. How did you get started in this work, man? What inspired you to get in organizing and wanted to build power in community?
That's a great question. So I think I started reflecting on theories of change, really, like 2019, 2020, because I didn't have clarity. Like, you know, I knew in my heart that I wanted to do good.
Right.
Which is a liberal thing to say, right? Oh, I'm gonna do good.
Yeah, right. I want to do good. I want to help people. Yeah.
But when I started working in advocacy roles and helping do policy, helping do case management, because you know, like the bulk of my professional career has been like relatively low wage, like case management work at a nonprofit.
Right.
And you know, like then I started thinking, okay, so I'm a case manager. I'm like helping these. At the time, I was helping people that had housing issues. I'm helping people who are tenants who are being evicted, or I'm helping people who need to file bankruptcy. But it's just overwhelming. The amount of people that keep coming to you,
right,
is far more than like the organizations here in town are prepared to help.
Right.
And no wonder, right? Because it's not addressing the root cause of these issues.
Right.
And so then I was like, I need to get into systemic work. And I went to do what I thought was systemic work, like through policy.
Right.
And through other means, through electoral means.
Right.
And I realized that through electoral means, but I meant more like top-down electoral strategies.
Right.
And that still face some of those issues where you're the one here helping the little people here.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's misguided because you have no leverage.
Right.
I mean, if you're a policy person, not trying to talk shit. We need good policy people.
Right.
Because I mean, like you're a grassroots organizer. You don't necessarily have all the knowledge about what's going inside.
Right.
We need someone with eyes there.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
But just policy is just begging, man.
Right.
Like you don't have leverage, especially in a state like Tennessee that is so extremely fascist. You don't
Everything
have
is
leverage.
preempted anyway, so yeah.
So, and what's the leverage of the workers? Their labor.
Right.
And that deeply resonated with me. You know, if I dream, man, I dream. Tomorrow we have 3 radical unions, and we have the service workers downtown,
Right.
and the medical workers at Vanderbilt Medical
Right.
Center,
Right.
and the construction industry wide
Right.
group that is like a radical union. It doesn't matter who's in city council. It
Right.
doesn't matter who's in the state. We say you're gonna change the zoning law, and we're gonna shut down the city.
Right.
And I think that's what we're working towards.
Right.
It's a modest start, and like, this is not to say that we're married to a specific type of organizing.
Right. Right.
Because there are other means to achieve that, right? It doesn't
Right.
have to be a union.
Yeah.
But it has to be people power.
Right.
It has to.
And multiple methods can all exist at one time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which I think is necessary, you know.
I agree.
Yeah. And so, no, but I'm also on the mindset of like the powers in the people, and you know, I personally don't have much faith in government.
Yeah.
The same people that kind of perpetuate the harm of people to also fix their problem. Yeah, that generally doesn't happen, or it doesn't happen rapidly, and so it takes, you know, radical movements, which may not even really be radical, but just necessary, like movements to happen where the people really just put their foot down, and like it's more of us than them. At
For
the end
sure.
of the day, always to really just say, okay, like we're just not gonna go to work. We're gonna just stop building, or we just not gonna, like, kids are just not gonna go to schools until Armando get paid. Like those type of things, I just think for government and government officials to take the people serious, like those are the lengths we must be willing to go, in my opinion. And when I look at workers' dignity in the things that you all do, like, I'm gonna keep saying this: worker dignity gets busy. That's gonna be a slogan in the episode. Worker dignity get busy. So I really appreciate that, man. And I think you all do a lot of stuff, or a lot of actions, and radical actions that many organizations in Nashville just don't do, and kind of try to be more friendly, and don't call out people. And I always like to echo this: we're not mad at individuals a lot of times. It's not the person. It's a systemic perpetuation of harming people that they represent. You know, it's like you don't have to be a part of it. Like, you can make a difference as a council person, you know, or as the mayor, or as a police chief, or except any particular person that has decision making power. You don't have to go along with the system that you're employed by has been doing. You could change that. It can start with you. Some of them, you know, try to make, you know, the genuine efforts to do that, and some of them just kind of keep rolling with the punches, man, which is unfortunate. But that's why we need organizations like Workers Dignity and organizers like yourself and others to keep putting that pressure on, and keep showing community like that is, like, we all have power, you know, and power is dynamic, and they don't all have to look the same way, but we all have it, and you just have to recognize it.
Yeah, you have me thinking 2 things. One, the comment that you mentioned about how government perpetuates the harm. Man, I'm just thinking about this Andrew Delkey plea deal. You know, that's massively fucked up. And that's one of the things that I'm really proud to be here. Is
Then
that
he had to go to trial.
what? No, not even
trial.
no accountability
Wow.
whatsoever. Right.
Wow.
But I am proud to be surrounded by these incredible organizers, black organizers, who are fighting that like. I think that's the most, like, visceral state repression that you can imagine.
Right.
Like this,
Right.
the state is, like, literally killing people, and then the people responsible just go like get away with it.
Right.
And whereas, like, I want to name it, like, black communities are disproportionately affected by that.
Right, for sure.
And that's another thing that I really like about us, is that we're building a multiracial movement.
Right.
Where we know that we are oppressed in different ways.
Exactly.
But we want to band together. It's not another thing is, it's not like my issue is more important or your issue is more important.
Right.
It's like we're building power.
Right.
And I'll be honest, that's been difficult because there's a lot of internalized anti-blackness within the Latinx community.
Hey everybody, this is your host and creator of Deep Dish Conversations, Jerome Moore, and I know you're enjoying this episode that you're watching currently. Make sure you hit that notification button and hit subscribe so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for all love and support, and continue watching the episode. I'll holler. I was going to ask you about that. Let's talk about it. Because I've lived in Costa Rica, I lived in Paraguay, and I've been in other countries in Central America. Just stop by, and so I've been in contact with Latinx community that are your complexion, and Latinx community that has been my complexion, and there's definitely something there, but I'm not directly from or in that community. And so it's really not my issue to speak on. But I would definitely like for you to break it down to us on that anti-blackness in the Latinx community so people can just be aware, educated, and do more research on it. But these are the type of conversations that I want us to have on Deep Dish Conversations, because I just think a lot of people just don't know. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, it's a lot of unlearning that we gotta do. Because at the end of the day, our futures are tied together.
Right.
Like, we all need liberation. Like, none of us are free till all of us are free, right? Like, I really actually think that's true. But we have this legacy of colorism where, so we had a caste system in Latin America where, white people were at the top, as usual, right? Because of colonialism.
Right.
Then you had mixed race people, and then you had indigenous and black people at the bottom. And some people, man, you know what's sad? A lot of Latinx people conceptualize themselves as white. And that's no mistake.
Right.
The government, like the U.S. Census, the category is like white Latino.
Right.
Who I think is white Hispanic.
Right. What does that even mean?
So my people, a lot of us align with whiteness. When you think white people give a fuck about us,
right. Why do you think that? Is it because of they understand or have the perception white is better, white is I have more opportunities if I conceptualize with being white, whether that's physically and or mentally. Why do you think that is? Because it's the world is crazy, and once you leave the United States, you see a lot of different cultures wanting to be whiter or this white supremacy is that shit is deep, man. It's really deep in even in China, when you would think where everybody pretty much is homogenous anyway, everybody pretty much looks the same, right?
Yeah.
It's still, man, they want to be more pale, man. It's crazy. And we think that, I think and I know you've obviously been outside the United States, but we think that white supremacy is just here a lot of times as Americans, because we deal with this black-white thing all the time, it's embedded in our culture. But then once you leave, you see the effects that just white supremacy has on damn near everything.
My context is Guatemala. That's where I was born and raised. the country is majority indigenous, and yet, you know, like, I'm not white,
Right.
but I enjoy white privilege there because of my proximity to whiteness. Because if you're indigenous, if you don't speak Spanish, your poverty rates are double.
Wow.
Your likelihood of going to college is a fifth of what it otherwise would be.
Right.
We have 20 million people, and I think we have like 1 or 2 Congress representatives that are indigenous, even though more than half the country is indigenous.
Right.
So you get tangible material rewards
Right.
for trying to approximate whiteness.
Right.
And you also get an ethnic and racial fluidity there, because what people do then, there's environmental displacement, there's capitalist displacement.
Right.
Once you're displaced, you change your clothes. You you no longer wear your Maya outfits.
Right.
You start speaking Spanish, and your kids don't speak your indigenous language, whether that's Kekchi, Cachiquel, or any other. We have 26 of them, and that comes with a material reward.
Right.
So I think when we talk about race, at least in my context in Guatemala, it's it is embedded in an economic structure.
Right.
And you know, once we leave because we're displaced,
Right.
We reproduce that shit here.
Right.
And I'm so grateful for the black community who has a commitment to stay with us,
Right.
to move with us.
Right.
And I think it's really beautiful that we're trying to have this multiracial movement.
Right.
Even though, you know, like, my community has shit to unlearn.
Right. Right. And what are some ways that the Latinx community is helping learn or unlearn some of those things that is promoting white supremacy?
Yeah, for sure. Well, one is political education, right? And I don't think that this can be done like standing by itself.
Right.
You just go to people and you're like, let me talk to you about this. It tends to be not as effective as when you're moving together towards something.
Right.
So definitely political education within our movements, and that's not just Workers' Dignity
Right.
who's doing that. I don't want to claim credit, man. Like, we gotta do better too.
Right.
Everyone has to do better.
Everybody is growing and trying to do better. For sure.
But I think the mixed movements, including X, I think they're developing an analysis of like what it means to be Latinx, that includes that legacy of colorism, of racism, and things that undoing that is crucial to our liberation.
Right.
But yeah, man, that's where we're at, and I'm excited for.
And I'm glad y'all addressing that, man, because again, like, as somebody who's lived, you know, outside the United States for a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
Like, lived. These are things that you see, you hear about. You know, when I was living in Paraguay, man. In Costa Rica, nobody thought I was American, right? Initially, like, nobody thought I was American. They was like, "Oh, are you Afro-Brazilian or you Cuban?" Or even in Costa Rica, because they have the Caribbean side, and because of the transatlantic, you know, slave trade, right? We was all, you know, all the Americas and stuff. Like, so they never like seen my blackness or just seen me as American, but they always say, "Oh, you must be from here or some other, you know, Latin community," and which was initially, which was like you get one kind of energy if they think that way, but once they find out, oh, okay, you're a Black American, that's a little different, than maybe being a Black Cuban or being from the Costa Rican, like being Black Costa Rican from the Caribbean side, or being Afro-Brazilian or something like that. So like I've always noticed it, witnessed it, but again, like I can only have so much like knowledge of it because I'm at the end of the day, I'm American. At the end of the day, and I can talk and have these conversations, but I don't. Once they find out I'm American, like I don't live, that experience of being, Black Latino and what comes with that. And so I'm really excited and happy and glad that those conversations are happening here in Nashville. And you all are making people aware and educating people to the best of your all ability, so we all can grow and be better and let it know that it's a thing, right? So this is amazing, man. That's awesome, especially with something like, again, like just from my broad experience, like I know how important that is, like, and I know how deep that runs. And for you all to, for you personally, just look it in the face and acknowledge it, like this is a thing, like this is not fake, this is no Malene. There's a difference between treatment and how some of my own people, my own community identify as a white person, and then even if you don't, they're still like, oh, my indigenous brothers and sisters, our Black Latinos still get treated differently. We need to address that and be in connection and be in power and help them build power so they can also be liberated.
Man, is the grace of the Black community and a commitment to move together with us. Because I would have totally understood. Because it's been a rocky path, right?
Right.
I would have totally understood if they been like, nah, fuck y'all. Like, we're out of here. But they're here, and I think that's really big. There's also other barriers, not nearly as big, but other barriers to multiracial organizing.
Right.
One of them is language justice. My people don't speak English.
Right.
At least most of them don't. And there's definitely a class difference between someone that speaks English and someone that doesn't.
Right.
Not always, but most of the time. And so centering language justice and the fact that we speak many languages has also been...
and we're in the South.
And we're in the South.
And we're in Tennessee, so, we haven't been big components, like, policy-wise on, like, it's always been English first, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And so... Yeah, and I tell you, man, one of the first things I realized, again, a lot of you may not know, but I was a Peace Corps volunteer, and that's when I had my first abroad experience, right? And I lived in Paraguay, which is in South America, right below Brazil, small country. Look it up, Google it. It's a hidden gem. It's a hidden gem. But I didn't realize until then how difficult it could be for other immigrants and refugees coming to the United States. Simply just language barrier. Because I went there, I knew hola, como esta, adios. Como te llamo? Like, I knew, me llamo Jorge. I knew I was novice level, right? And so when I came back, man, one of the first things I did was I did like ESL, man, because I had a like real life like experience of like what language barriers could do. You could be a doctor, but if you can't speak the language, you end up being a janitor, or you end up being something that is below your educational level or your ability, the skill set that you have, just based on language, man. So that's good to hear that there's a thing such as language justice, man, because like I know firsthand, and it's no joke. But I think, again, many of us who may not have been exposed to have to experience that as Americans maybe don't understand maybe how difficult it is, how depressing it can be, but then challenging, like just because I don't know the language, I really can't be my full self and use my full skills that I've been able to garner maybe in my home country or elsewhere. But because I really just can't speak English, I have to do something that's maybe less of myself.
Yeah, like you see it in organizing, right? You really have to center that language justice to be able to ensure that people don't miss out on a lot of stuff. And that stuff is complicated by the fact that Latinx doesn't necessarily means that you speak Spanish.
Right.
We have a lot of construction workers coming from my country, from Guatemala, who are being displaced. Man, that connection is also very important. They're being displaced because of a combination of climate change and capitalism.
Right.
Like these mining companies and African palm plantations destroying their environment. They come here. They don't speak Spanish. They speak Quechua. Yeah. So like that's and we don't have interpreters.
Right. But that's like in Paraguay, man. They speak Guarani. Right, Maestra ba por la puerta. That's kind of what it sounds like. And they only speak it in Paraguay. And so, if you're Paraguayan, and it's similar, I think, to Guatemala. Once you get kind of, I stayed in the community in Iturbe where it's kind of like mixture of like urban and countryside, but they really enjoy speaking their indigenous language. Right, it's a beautiful language. And so me trying to learn like both languages, like let me stick to Spanish. I know I can use this, right? But like if the further the countryside you go, right, it's just they may not know any Spanish. They're just going to speak their indigenous Guarani language. So man, I can definitely understand that. And like, but again, there's not maybe many people that's thinking about that, like immigrants, refugees that's coming over and having an indigenous language, that we probably have fewer in between interpreters that can really serve them. So man, yeah, that's powerful, man. And I hope people that may be watching this, if you are having that barrier, like you could reach out to Jorge or Workers Dignity and some of the things that they're doing. And we also have next week we're having Voices de Nashville, Voces de Nashville.
Oh, hell yeah.
So we have them, and so it's powerful what they're doing, and the ladies in the Latinx community are doing, trying to like use the language that they have and build power to help other people be Spanish teachers and things like that.
Man, I'm excited. I'm excited for that episode. Being following.
Y'all check that out. That's coming soon. But man, this is like, I hope y'all are getting these gems, because you can't get this nowhere else, man. Especially around organizing. I feel like, especially when we talk about this language, just like and I think you're one of the best persons to be able to explain it and break it down way better than I could have. And you're in that community, man. So I appreciate that. Man, I want to get into some hot topics here in Nashville.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it.
Some hot topics here in Nashville. One of the things, man, I've been, like I said, Workers Dignity Get Busy, that I've seen you all on, man, is this with this South Nashville housing tenants, man. Can you talk more about that and kind of what's the progress of it now and what's happening? Is it the Mosaic?
That's right.
Apartment complex.
Yeah.
And so, what's happening with that, man?
So, workers are not just workers, right? They're whole people, and that means they live somewhere. They're embedded in like other social structures. And that's maybe like, I think that's true, but it's theorizing. What really happened, man, was that no one else was available to respond. 'Cause, like we're all mad busy, right? Like there's like a handful of organizers trying to build power in this state,
right?
And the repression here is massive. But in any case, these tenants got a call, and the management at Mosaic Apartments said, and on a Friday, they told them you have to be out by Monday, or else. And this is a community that has lived there, because you don't need a social security number to live there, and like that's why they live there. That's why they pay like $1,200, $1,400 for these awful apartments that have holes in the wall and no AC. But anyway, so they called us up, and what we really did, I can't claim credit here. I was there to support, but really the bulk of the work was my coworkers Cecilia and Julio. But they called us up And we just created space for them to organize. 90 families who were being displaced. Some of them have been living there for 20 years. And what's scary about this, the you gotta go or else, is there's been 2 ICE raids there in that same apartment complex in the last 10 years. Management is always calling the police on tenants. Like, if you ask for repairs too much, they call the police.
Wow.
If you're trying to talk to management, they call the police.
Wow.
And now the people, I couldn't find anywhere in 3 days. On a weekend.
Yeah, like who can respond that quickly? Like even if you have the financial means, like finding housing in Nashville that's a feat in this. Like that's
Yeah.
like Thanos will have a hard time trying to find housing. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, no, and
what was the reason? It was just like what was the reason for them to get that notice that they had to be out in 3 days? It's just,
oh man, the games that these bastards played are wild. So they get that call, which is totally illegal too.
right.
Because but the excuse that they gave was that there was some flood damage from a flood that happened in March.
Okay.
Mind you, this is in May.
Right.
So it's been months.
Yeah, 3 months.
And they're like, oh, it's dangerous for you to live there. Like, the building is it's uninhabitable. You gotta leave now. That was the initial story. But after the tenants organized and started pushing, turns out it was a bunch of lies.
Right.
First they said, oh no, actually, we're gonna respect the law. We're gonna give you the 14 days that we're supposed to give you, and I think $1,500 for your troubles. They thought it was bullshit. The tenants thought it was bullshit. They kept pushing, man. Then and this was the management company. And meanwhile, there's like media stories coming out about this everywhere. And then the owners of the apartment complex, an investment firm based in Chicago and California, got a hold of this. And so the founder and president of this company flew to Nashville to have a town hall with the tenants. And at that town hall, he said this was a misunderstanding. No one's getting evicted. Everyone gets to stay, and we're gonna give you 2 months of rent for your troubles.
Okay.
The tenants had organized. They had demands.
Right.
Because, like, this place, man, is like crawling with rats.
Right.
With no AC in the middle of the summer.
Right.
And where work is dignity.
Right.
It's about dignity.
Right.
It's like you have the right to live in, like, not a shithole.
Right. Exactly. You paying $1,400 a month. You damn right.
Yeah. And man, the tenants were like kept pushing for those demands.
Right.
And they're still fighting for that. But it's been a pretty big win.
That's good.
Like from like 3 days you gotta leave to you don't have to leave. You have 2 months free rent.
Right.
And now fighting that they're saying that they're gonna like replace the ACs.
Right.
If they don't, then the tenants will keep organizing.
Yeah. You gotta keep applying that pressure. Yeah, man, that's awesome, man.
But the idea of this, we were first moved, but because I don't give a shit who's a worker, who's not a worker. These are people, right?
Right, exactly.
But
these are Nashville neighbors.
But we started thinking, 70% of these tenants are construction workers.
Right.
They're the ones building this city.
Right.
And then they're getting pushed out of it.
Right.
In like the worst ways possible.
Right.
So we're trying to, because we don't have a lot of staff.
Right.
It's really Yeah, we don't have a lot of staff, and we're doing a lot of stuff.
Right.
I'd love to talk to you about the participatory democracy project that the Black Nashville Assembly is doing.
Yeah.
We're doing some cool shit.
Yeah.
But you know, like, and then I'm like over here, like, doing the workers' nights with wage theft and all of that. And then we have our co-director Cecilia and the other construction organizer Julio, and then we have the Black Nashville Assembly, who right now is Erica and Maxine, and then we have our admin people, and that's it. So we're
make sure y'all support Workers Disney.
Yeah, please
make
do.
support.
Please
Donate, do whatever y'all can do.
So right now we're trying to figure out how we're going to put forth that vision of tenants and the construction industry, both sides of the same coin,
Right.
and really how, like, the fight for our city,
Right.
because if our people are not here anymore, man, what's the point of organizing
Right.
in Nashville?
Exactly.
And yeah, I mean, and it is black people, it's indigenous people, and Latinx people
Right.
are getting run out of this town.
That's a fact. That's a fact, man. We gotta get the Black Assembly on here. I'm gonna have to make a call.
Oh, please do. Please do.
Get a real round table going on, man. To finish up, Jorge, man, because we could talk all day, man.
Yeah,
we really
seriously.
could talk all day. But I wanna leave the space for you to, man. Anything else you want to say to the people that's watching, man, about how they can either continue to support Workers Dignity or just information that's going on within the immigrant, refugee, Latinx community that they need to that they should be aware of, and and just speak to the people, man.
Yeah, for sure. Man, what I want to drive home is we're all the working class. If you work for a living, you're working class, and you have a space at Workers Dignity. So the members of Workers Dignity are people who are part of our campaigns. People who are construction workers, people who are black are building political power. But if you're not a member, and by the way, I'm not a member, I'm not a construction worker, I'm not black.
Right.
You still have a home here because this is a working class movement.
Right.
And we have a structure. We don't have volunteers.
Right.
We have compas, which means comrades in Spanish. And a lot of our infrastructure is supported by people who are not members of our campaigns, who are working class, who believe that like our liberation, collective liberation, is tied together. So it doesn't matter if you're a construction worker or not. It doesn't matter, as long as you're working class. You have a space here where you can grow, where you can learn how to organize, where you can be deeply embedded in the work, because there's more work than there are people doing it.
Right.
And so yeah, just hit us up. Like if you feel moved.
How can people get in touch with you? It might be somebody that's watching this that may want to invite you to speak more about some of the things that you're building. I know you're in law school too, right?
I'm about to start. I'm about to start. Yeah.
So get him before he gets extra busy. So how can people reach you via Instagram, Twitter, or?
Yeah, man, totally. I'm young, but I'm an old soul, so I use Facebook a lot.
What's your Facebook? How can they find it?
Yeah. I'm the only Jorge Salles Diaz there.
Okay.
So you just type my name, you'll find me.
Man, look, Jorge, man, I appreciate your time, man. Gracias, amigo, por siempre, for all your time, man, and just, man, like, yeah, I appreciate all the work that you're doing for the entire Nashville community, man, and especially for the Latinx community, man.
Oh, gracias a ti, Jerome.
Man, I hope you enjoyed the pizza, man.
It was so good. You were so right, though. I couldn't have finished that.
All right, well, look, we appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of Deep Dish Conversations. Keep checking us out, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And Jorge, man, appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
For sure.
For the pizza.
Oh yeah, that's why people come, and they come for the pizza. They don't really come for me. They come for the pizza. But all right, man, I appreciate it, man. That's a wrap.